I feel like after hearing all of that, your years, like the next like few years of your life, I don't want to say they make sense, but
yeah,
it definitely like the way that you like had wired your brain kind of like sent you into a spiral because of like these factors that had been put into your life.
Yeah. I mean, and I do believe that a lot of the time addiction is genetic. Like if you're going to be born an addict and it's going to happen to you, and it's something that like you can be born with or not, but also sometimes you can become an addict of anything. There are many addictive things in the world these days. Yeah. But yeah, the next few years, like once my mom, I was talking about this with my dad too, like almost like clockwork. Once my mom got sober and then they got a divorce is when I started drinking and exploring my addiction and like really getting into it. So like God bless my dad, because he went from my mom to immediately his son. Yeah. And it was, I frequently like, I'll have conversations with him a lot because he maintains that he may have not operated in the right way and that there were a lot of challenges put up against me. So that's why it happened. But I also think on my end, like it was going to happen regardless. Genetically, I was going to be an addict. And yeah, I went to boarding school and I had no stability at home. And at boarding school, you don't really feel like you have that much stability either. Yeah. So really, yeah, after 13, it just felt like I had no like semblance of home ever again after that point. It was just immediately ripped out. And I was always worried that that was going to happen again. So I never felt stable after that. So I very quickly was just hanging around the people that would like co-sign the bad behaviors that we were doing. I would go to a friend's house whose mom would get us alcohol every weekend. And it just became a part of my routine. Like I wouldn't say like 15 and 16, I was immediately like a heavy drinker. But once it became available enough to me around 17, it just really started happening. And frequently when I would get drunk is when I would get emotional and cry. I was like a drunk crier. And I think I was doing that because I could not feel otherwise. Like
you trained yourself to not do that.
Yes, I literally had gone through the exercise of not feeling. And so often when I would get really drunk, I would like cry about things and really feel really deeply. And obviously looking back on that now, I can realize as to why, but I just thought like, oh, I'm just a drunk crier. Like this is what's happening to me. Yeah. And I was always very early on in my time of drinking was drinking to like black out. There was never a point at which I was like one or two. And I never understood the point of one or two. I was like, wait, why? Like, why would you stop? Like I was always an extremist as a kid. And so that has carried on to like everything I do. And so when that's a healthy habit, it's nice. But when it's something like drinking, it was not. And it really came to a head when I was like doing cocaine every night, not sleeping, and then working my shift at Starbucks, my opening shift at Starbucks from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., going home, sleeping from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., waking up, doing drugs all night, and then continuing on. And that's not very sustainable. And it was just like, and I was also doing it alone. I wasn't like doing it and like going and partying. I was just like sitting in my room, like watching The Office and doing cocaine. Like that is, come on, have a little bit more fun. Jesus Christ. But it's like, it was a really sad kind of picture of my life at the time. But I didn't even, and I knew that it was problematic use. I knew that this could not last forever, but I also didn't know how to be an adult any other way. As soon as I started adulthood, life was completely like unstable in so many ways. Yeah. And so I think it does make sense to me why it happened in the way that it did, but also I'm kind of grateful that my mom had gone through this rehab experience about 5 years before they sent me there, because they knew what all of these signs looked like. They knew really early on that this was a problem and that they were going to need to do something. And so like really I was 19. It was September of my sophomore year of college when I like walked into my kitchen and they were having an intervention for me, and everything changed.
Was this the first time you went to rehab or the second time?
This was the second time. I did go one time the summer before that, just for 30 days. Yeah. Because I had been drinking way too much at 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 the senior year of high school, and at high school graduation, I had gotten into a fight with someone, and it was just like, everyone was like, you can't do this.
I literally can't imagine you doing that.
I also can't, like, I'm not an angry person.
Yeah.
And, but at that point too, again, all of my emotions were heightened when I was drinking. So like, I was not thinking clearly about anything. So I'd gotten into a fight with someone. Her parents said, you have to go to rehab. My parents were like, you got to go to rehab. So we went to rehab, or I went to rehab, but it was 30 days, and a 30-day program. They can work for some people, but it really, for people who have like some deep seated issues, you start scratching the surface at the end of 30 days.
Yeah.
And then you get sent back into the world, and it's like, and good luck. And the second rehab they said it was going to be 90 days long, but as soon as I got there, they were like, it's however long it takes. And you talk to some of the other people who are there, and they're like, yeah, I've been here for 8 months. I've been here for a year. And so really early on, I was like, fuck, I'm about to be here for a really long time, because they do not send you out into the world until you're ready. And it was a program where it was like, once you were done with the first phase, you got a job, but still had to come back to the campus every day and do your group sessions every night. So it was a really slow transition back into the real world.
Yeah.
But it was very intense.
How long were you in it for?
I was in the inpatient program, which is the first phase, which is like 3 group therapy sessions a day, 1 group therapy session a week. And then you do like community service every weekend. I was doing that for 6 months. Wow. I believe. And that was seen as quick. Like that was like, wow, you completed kind of quick, like good work. Wow. And then at the end of the 6 months, you get put into job search. And so you do 1 group therapy session every day at night, but you don't have a phone at this point. So you're going, they give you a bus pass and a dream. So you're going around. It was Boca Raton, Florida, 2 different places that you have been pre-approved to apply at. And you have to go, just walk in and be like, can I apply for a job? Yeah. And they're like, it's like, you can't have the argument that people mostly apply online. And like, I don't know, that's a scary thing. They're like, I don't care. That was the part of that rehab too. It was a very intense energy of like, you are facing every single one of your fears and every part you don't like about yourself. We are going to make you look at that and work on it.
Yeah.
And so you would go up to these places and apply. And I remember I went to this like organic restaurant and applied to be a server. And then I went back and told my therapist that, and she was like, I think we need to find a more humble job. I need you to go back and apply as a busboy. I don't think you can be a server there. I was like, okay. And she was like, humility. And I was like, God, all right. So I went back and applied as a busboy. And then I was a busboy at that job for a few months, working overtime most of the time. I would get there at like 4:30 a.m., scrub the floors, because they were like, immediately once you start making money, you have to start paying whoever is paying for rehab back. Oh. So you're immediately not allowed to spend money. You're paying for your rent and whoever paid for rehab. Even if your parents or someone are like, you don't have to pay us back, the therapists are like, yes, they do. Yeah. Like everything was just about doing what you were supposed to do. And so I picked up the early morning maintenance shifts and would like scrub the floors. And I had to like save a portion of my hourly every week, because the buses didn't even run at 4 a.m. So I had to take a like $15 lift there every morning. And I would take the lift there every morning, scrub the floors, and then start the lunch shift of being a busboy, and then try to go through dinner as much as I could until I had to go back to my group therapy session, do my group therapy session, go to a meeting, an AA meeting that night, because you have to go to one every night, and then go to bed and wake up the next day for early morning maintenance again. And so and then I did that for about 3 or 4 months. Okay. And then I think in like my last month, I only had to go, you finally fully complete your program. And so I only had to go like once a week. Okay. And it's called, I think it was aftercare. And it was like once a week you see one of the therapists, and they're not as intense with you anymore, because they're just like, we're just trying to see you go through life. And then that was in August. And then by September, I went back up to Boston to restart my sophomore year and try again and get into it and see if I could, assimilate back into the regular world, even at college. And I did, but it was a very uneventful year. It was like not much happened because I was really just nervous about deviating from what was happening.
Yeah. And you knew, like, going in, you were like, I have a problem. Like, I do. Like, I understand why my parents want me to go.
Yes. I mean, I knew even like before. When I saw my entire family in the kitchen and extended family, I was like, right. Like, I know what's happening. Yeah. I knew, like, I was, and everyone around me knew too. I was drinking way more than anyone would. It got to the point where I was like, pre-gaming a pre-game with like one of those, like a fifth of vodka. I realized it was really concerning when I finished one of those and was like still coherent. Yeah. Like I wasn't like blacked out at that point, but I would do that because I wouldn't want everyone to see how much I was drinking at the pregame.
Yeah.
But I would, even then at the pregame, I was still drinking more than everyone else, even though I was already fucking pumped full of alcohol.
Yeah.
And so I was drinking so much. And then when I started doing a lot of coke, and I didn't have the money to do that at that point. So I was draining my bank account. I was like lying to my parents about why I needed money for things and all of that stuff. So it was just like it was becoming non-functional. People talk about functional addicts a lot and how people can live for years as functional addicts. Yeah. And I guess that's technically what my mom was doing, but I was non-functional. I was getting to the point of being non-functional really early on. And I remember saying to a friend that after college, like, I'll figure it out and I'll go to rehab and do all of that. But I don't even know if I really would have made it through, because it was just getting to a point where like my liver was having issues, like I was having the yellow under the eyes, and I had gained so much weight just from like being like the alcohol bloat. I consistently had that. And I remember when I stopped drinking, within a month, I lost like 25 pounds. Without even really, I didn't start working out a lot. It was literally just not putting that in my system. Like I flushed myself out so quickly.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know, like I at the time hadn't even seen how much that was like puffing me up too. And now when I look back at photos, I'm like, oh my God. Like,
people don't realize like how much, like, even though alcohol can be like, you know, not that many calories or whatever it is, like it's not, that is like completely different.